Welcome back to another episode of Sexy Marriage Radio, alongside my wife, Pam.
Always good to be here.
Each and every week, straightforward, honest conversations about married life and the journeys that we take within our marriage. It can go a lot of different ways depending on the people involved and our history and our decisions and our choices and the consequences. And that kind of sets the stage for today's question that's coming from an emailer, a wife that's emailed in that it might take a little bit of time to unpack, and it's going to probably elicit some reactions from those in the nation that when they initially hear it. So we're going to ask people to hang with us all the way through as we unpack this.
Yeah.
Because we're going to take both segments with the regular and the extended to go in detail about this, because it's a little bit of a different path than a lot of couples take when it comes to how they've done their marriage. Is that enough of a tease for where we're heading with this thing, Pam?
I guess so, because I don't know all the details either. So,
okay. Well, here's an email from a wife that says, I have a more in-depth question about being a lower desire spouse. She works evenings until 11:30 at home, and they have 4 kids. 2 of them are younger, and 2 of them are teenagers, and the teenagers draw life out of her in a different way, because teenagers are just teenagers, you know. My husband says we have a sexless marriage, even though we have passionate sex about twice a week. I'm adamant that I don't want to have sex when I'm tired after work. It's just not my thing. I like to make an evening of it, to have nice lighting, candles, music, a sexy outfit, and then have a sensual experience together. My husband is okay with none of that, but he also does enjoy all of it as well. To give some history here, we used to be swingers for a few years during our marriage, and we've had some pretty erotic sexual experiences. We've not done this for 2 years, and I know he misses it, but he's been okay with just having sex with me. I understand that I've changed the dynamic by not wanting to go to clubs or have sexual swaps anymore, and a big part of the reason for the change is my finding Christianity in my faith. Another question of mine is your thoughts on a threesome with another woman in regards to Christianity, being that I'm okay with it and enjoy it myself. It's a huge turn on for me, and I'm trying to decide if we should get back to the fun swinger club scene or just keep things toned down with only looking for another woman to join us. We used to have such a fun way to let go and enjoy our free time with other couples while at the club. I wouldn't even mind it if we had an open marriage to where he could go have sex with someone else to help his higher desires. I do find it a turn on, so I wouldn't mind it a bit. I don't mind if he watches porn or looks at other women. Our love is undeniable. We have a long history as we've dated in high school, and then we got back together in our 30s after my divorce. Now we don't have much to do that we consider nearly as exciting, so it's quite the conundrum. In closing, I mainly would like to figure out if I should be giving in when I'm exhausted, even though we only get about 5 hours of sleep at night due to our jobs and the kids. I feel sleep should be prioritized. I find my husband the sexiest man around, honestly. He works out daily and he's very attractive. So the interest is obviously there. I just need to have the energy and the right mindset to be able to get into having sex. Hopefully all this made sense and it wasn't too scattered. Thanks again. So there's quite a bit here, because this is more obviously the big thing that's going to jump out is the history in the swinging culture and experiences. That's going to play a role in this for sure, just because that's a big factor.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of other factors at play here too. And so we need to kind of parse all of these out, because I think it matters on the overall frame of how they're looking at this, how she's looking at this. I would be curious of where he is with his, how does he view the things going on? Is he really okay with things, or is he just settling for things? And there's an underlying dilemma that's really happening. So there's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, it'd be good to get it from his perspective. It's interesting that, the one comment she shares of his perspective is he views it as a sexless marriage.
Right. But yet they're having sex twice a week, and she terms it passionate. At least twice a week. And she terms it passionately. And so that tells us something about what he's asking for, what she's asking for.
Doesn't that tell us about how our perspectives are so different, right? How many people do we have that listen to the show that would love to have sex twice a week? They haven't had it in 2 months or 2 years.
Right. And this is one of those, this is one of those things too, just on the perspective thread, that frequency is the wrong metric here.
For sure.
Right. This is, and it always really has been. The frequency is the wrong metric to gauge my sex life, because what actually is the question isn't how often. It's the difference between desire for your partner versus desire for a behavior.
Yeah.
And that's the way we've got to start parsing this out, because these aren't the same thing, right? This is, do I have desire for just a behavior with you in our marriage, or do I have a desire for you in our marriage? Those are two different paths completely that might have some overlap and some similarities, but man, they land in different places.
They do.
And oftentimes when we talk about having a metric of it's just about frequency, it's too finite of a definition for something that you can't completely define. Our sex lives, you can't completely define in a quantified way like that. It's much more nuanced and sophisticated because it's a language.
Yeah. Well, it feels more just about an act of feeling, getting to an end result. How do I feel versus what's going on within us in our relationship? Right. What's our ultimate goal here? Yeah.
Because I'd be really curious how he determines twice a week passionate sex as she sees it, as sexless as he sees it.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference here? Right? How do they come to those different definitions?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's worth sitting and that's worth her asking him. Hey, just out of curiosity, when you say and claim we have a sexless marriage, what defines that for you? What does that actually mean?
Mm-hmm.
And just see where that goes, because now we're talking about a different definition problem, which is also the way we orient towards things. Because when I can take a stance of, well, we have this, well, a lot of times it's aimed at you to change your behaviors. It's not about me as much. And that's really what she's picking up on, because her final question was, I'm just trying to see, is it okay? Should I just be giving in?
Should I just do this exhausted?
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's the other component too that's a factor, is she's clearly running on fumes in the sense of 5 hours a night, 4 kids, 2 of them teenagers, work until 11:30. And her body probably is trying to make a pretty clear vote, and it's getting overruled.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm just tired.
Mm.
And so that's not a desire problem. That's a math problem. There's just so many hours in the day. There's just so much energy. That is a finite thing we have.
Sure. And the incongruence with, I found Jesus, we're not going to the swingers clubs anymore, but then I want to introduce these other things. I think you're going to talk about that more in the extended content.
We will. And that's one of the things where we try to make sense out of our conundrums. And so we try to figure out paths to fix it, without really looking at myself. And in some ways I'm kind of outsourcing it rather than using it as a better way to ask questions of myself and each other. And we'll talk about that. Yes, we will unpack this even more, but the other component of this, because let's pivot here, because this is one of the things we've talked about a bunch over the years of Sexy Marriage Radio, is the lower desire dynamic.
Okay.
Because that's what she's talking about, and the way she's framing it is she realizes I'm a lower desire, and the reality of this framework is the lower desire controls it, because they're the ones that get to say yes or no, and that's just the way the systems work. Mm-hmm. So it's not a hierarchy or a right or wrong or broken and working framework. It's this is just the way it goes, right? So, but what's interesting is she's not actually withholding. That's what she's saying, right? Because she does enjoy sex. She's actually very clear about what it is she wants: a romantic evening, a sensual experience, candles, music, not just a quick transaction.
Yeah.
So that's actually not low desire. That's higher standards of what she wants.
Yeah.
Right? She just wants things in a certain way for her. And so that's different than I'm not wanting sex. It's I don't want that kind of sex. That's where you have to drill into what my lower desire, higher desire dynamic is.
Sure. If he's wanting sex with her, is he wanting it just to get off? Is he really wanting a connection with her that she's involved in and wants to be involved in? And if he doesn't want that, then does she want to be a part of that?
Right, because she's framing this as the way I'm hearing his mind is that he'll take the half asleep version of sex just to keep the frequency up.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll take the just go through the motions. And so what does that actually say about what it is he's seeking and what it is he really does want? Because there's a difference between, and this is also what she's wrestling with. In some ways, they are both facing what do I want versus what am I willing to settle for? And that's the dilemma of what's being exposed between the two of them.
Yeah.
And I'm still kind of really sort of unclear of what is it he really wants. Is it connection? Is it reassurance? Is it a number on a scoreboard? Is it a tally mark? Is it just something that's completely biological? And so it's an element of realizing what is it that's really being asked of me in this as it pertains to what it is my spouse is wanting and willing to settle for. Because that's the dilemma they're both in. Because she's even asked, I'm willing to settle for a bunch of different options, possibly if it might help this thing.
Well, a lot of it's confusing, and I guess I'm trying to clarify in my mind because I also keep looking at some of it. Is she settling? The things that she's thinking of are things that excite her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Making it a threesome.
Being open to that idea again because of what they're basing it off of in the past.
We had fun with that in the past. Is it where you should be now?
That's right? A bigger question.
You're at a new point of life. And what is it that you found? Why did you cut that out? Right. There is a reason you cut that out.
Mm-hmm.
And now it sounds like, well, maybe it'll be easier to make him happy if we just bring that back in.
Mm-hmm.
And I could be wrong. It sounds like a justification to herself in that, well, I found that exciting too. So maybe we just go ahead and bring that back in.
Which can be true. But then you start having it framed up against something else that makes it to where it's like, it could still, my past experiences can be true and where they were and what they did in that moment. But are they serving me now? Are they living in line with a value I want to live now? Are they drawing me towards something bigger than myself? Now, because this, and we'll unpack this in greater detail in the extended, but there's an element. We've had a lot of different questions over the years that come up against the humanness sides of us and the way we can handle our sex lives without moral compasses, where it's just if it feels good, seek it out. That's kind of what the world has become and has always been.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think I speak for you here. We believe Christianity, a relationship with Jesus and a relationship with God calls us to something more.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just rules and edicts and laws. Mm-hmm. It's a relationship that pushes us to something more. That's the value structure. That's where the morality starts to come into play. So it's not a thou shalt only or thou shalt not only. It's a relationship. And that's the same thing we love about the framework of marriage. It's a relationship that calls us to something more than ourselves. We just celebrated an anniversary, and on our conversations during the long walk we had that night, we both were talking about the fact that I'm so grateful for the journey I've had alongside you that has called me to be something more because of our relationship.
Yeah.
And that's marriage at its finest in a lot of ways. That's the mechanism it's defined to do. Well, it's the same. That's just a microcosm mirror of what our relationship with God does. It calls us to something more. And so wrestling with these is a good thing. What I choose to do and how I choose to act on it is where it's all really defined.
Yeah.
But the wrestle is a good thing. The question she's asking is a good thing. I'm trying to bring together my past with my present. And I've got all these different feelings because we all do this too as good God-fearing Christians our entire life. I'll still equate the energy and the excitement and the feelings I had from when we first met each other and when we were first married and all that. How do I find that again? That's a biological, hormonal thing, not a deeper, more meaning thing. And so it's the same framework here. But before we go further into that, because I want to keep that a lot of this a little bit later still.
Sorry, I keep pointing you to that because in my mind, it's
a
like
huge one. It's a very, very important aspect of this. And that's part of the reason why it's good to bring it into both.
Yeah.
But there's another huge component that she hints at, she knows it's there, but hasn't, I don't know if she's really landed on it, which is just the mere physical capacity and tiredness aspect, because that's a real issue.
Sure.
I mean, our bodies, if we don't get enough sleep, we have big prices to pay. I mean, science is finally catching up, because for a while their sleep was largely dismissed, as it was really thought of poorly.
Yeah, and you can sleep when you die.
Now more and more. I can get 5 hours and I can go. And it's like, no.
Like it's a badge of honor.
You just really can't. And so prioritizing sleep is basic physiology that we need to keep dialing and making it as important as it needs to be maintained, where you constantly are looking for what is better sleep. It's just better for my overall health, overall well-being, overall mental capacity. It just changes everything. And so the important thing she's talking about is this exhaustion is a component in it.
Sure.
And the way the frame goes, he likely, I'm guessing, I'm speculating here because it's not talked about, if she's working from home until late, I'm assuming he's home. So he can already have the capacity going of, I've already started the process of the sexual encounters that I'm interested in with you. And then I know this happens in our marriage. You come home and I'm already in the mindset, and you're like, that is the furthest thing in the world from me.
Yeah, you're
where
not
I
in the
am
same
right
place.
now.
Yeah.
So it's going to take me quite a bit of time to transition to there, which means we're pushing it even later to when we actually can engage in some good passionate sex, which is why she likes the idea of the long drawn out, which I'm only speculating here, is on the weekends. We got 2 nights a week where we got time. We can build it up. The rest of the time of the week, we don't have the time. And so there's a huge defining difference between them just because of the framework of life.
Yeah.
And that can either be a personal thing, or it's just, that's the reality of where we are. And sometimes when we can position ourselves better, we see it as that's what we're facing. It's not it's not in between us. It's outside of us that that we face together.
Yeah. And how do we manage kind of the framework of time that's in our laps right now?
Right.
Yeah.
And so when you can look at it as, okay, wait, we have an opportunity to see we have allies in this with each other, or we don't. Because the reality is, I mean, we have this conversation too about the job roles we each have and how yours has a lot more required of it, particularly during big seasons of the year. But it's also a conversation we have of, is this the price we still want to keep paying right now? As far as how it impacts our time,
sure,
how it impacts us. And the more we can realize that it's not about, why do you always blah, blah. It's more, okay, wait, this is just where we are.
Yeah.
How do we shift and adjust? And so sometimes that changes the feeling and the pressure between us on how we orient towards these things, because everybody has these things. When you're dealing with an aging parent, when you have new kids, when you move to a new city, when you have a different job, when you got kids that have problems going on, all of that impacts us, and we can easily have that invade our marriage versus see it as, wait, this isn't.
It's just a dynamic to work around, right? A dynamic to kind of coordinate with, to then figure out, how do we manage this together, right? How do we? Yeah.
And so the other last question I want to ask for her is, when she looks at this whole framing of how the type of standard that she wants with her sex, that I want it a little more sensual, a little more drawn out, a little more engaged and passionate as she sees it. And then you layer that over the tired component. There's an element of this that, yes, it's a factor and it's real, but how much also could it be a way, because of the standard that she wants, is a way she can actually start avoiding some of the sex that's also offered because it doesn't meet the standard. And that's just the dilemma, because he's got this dilemma of, I want frequency. She's got a dilemma of, I want a standard. And we can use those things as something that's being blocked by my spouse versus, how do I at least examine what am I doing that's getting in my own way? But I'm blaming them for it because I'm culpable in it in some ways too. And I'm not saying lower your standards or anything like that.
No.
But I am saying have the courage to ask yourself some questions of, could it be that I am getting in my own way and I'm blind to that?
Yeah. Am I putting up some walls, some barriers unconsciously that maybe I need to re-examine myself?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then the last thing, just to kind of set up the extended content, is I'm curious because with the swinging history they've had and how it created a shared erotic history for them, that now they're using that as a baseline of what they're measuring marriage against, like their current marriage. They're using baselines that are they won't equate.
Right.
Right. And so it really becomes imperative that they start to examine in each of them. And I don't know if he'll listen to this or not, but it's imperative that each of them need to examine what's shifted for me in this choice. What's changed? What brought it on? What am I learning about it now that we're in it? And what's shifted? How am I having this? Yeah, but I'm comparing it to this and it doesn't live up to that. Because she even talks about it. We miss the easy, fun, erotic moments we would have out at the clubs and with other people, where it's just a completely different environment that will not stack up against marriage. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. Marriage is a completely different standard that's worth honoring and valuing, but it's two different things.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things to say here, but we're covering that in the extended content, right? Okay.
But that's the framework to start looking at as we're going to be exploring, because this is the same thing we do when we're constantly comparing what was going on in our marriage with whatever our past experience was in our relationship. Still the same framework, because it can't stack up against, because we're not the same people. We're not in the same experiences.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're heading in the extended content. And so if you're not a member, come join us. And if you are, we'll see you on the other side.